Hey guys, welcome to Redline Talk Show. I'm here today with Iliriana and our special guest. Her name is Arbana Xharra, who is an internationally acclaimed investigative journalist and a human rights expert. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show, Arbana.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
So, Arbana, tell us a little bit about your background for the listeners that are first tuning in to kind of get to know you a little bit more.
So, I'm from Kosovo. I've been doing journalism since 2001. A lot of people ask me why I started doing journalism. So it's a small story that I've told when I'm from Jakova, so we've been doing the war for over 2 months. So the war started on March and we left Jakova on May 2nd. So I was 16, 17 at the time. And I remember at the border, even though I could speak just a little bit of English, I was sharing with all the media there what is happening, and then I have realized the power of being a voice of voiceless. And then after the war, I still was at the high school, and in 2001 I started journalism, the private college, the first one, and journalism in Pristina. So this is how I started, and it's been a lot of years now, and a lot of things happened. So
you have I guess an interesting story, or I would say a sad story at the same time. Tell us a little bit about the challenges that you faced in the early career of investigating reporting during that time.
So as a child, in my childhood, living under the regime, so we dreamed about freedom, and we didn't know what is going to happen with Kosovo when we escaped to Albania and then coming back. And I remember at the time in Albania, there were a lot of foreign organization that came to our family, and they asked us, do you want to go somewhere else? And my dad always said, no, we are going back, even though we didn't know when the war is going to end. So as I said, when you start doing this job and when you go through war, and I've always mentioned this small detail, which is very interesting. As I actually remind my kids often, because I was the oldest one and had 2 other sisters, and we were asking my parents and praying to be killed by bullet and not being massacred, because we've heard that they are massacring people during the war. So with all the trauma, then having a chance to work as a journalist and the freedom, but everything started from zero, new institution. And so I was lucky to start doing internship on the largest and most credible newspaper, Koha Ditor at the time. And I've been working very, very good journalists. A lot of them came international, and I started in the beginning. I was covering some daily stories, but then I have realized that I really want to follow the money and go into the big stories. And yes, I was very, very young, and in the beginning people don't really take you seriously.
That's actually a good thing, because they underestimate you, so you could actually do more sometimes when they don't take you seriously.
It was a challenge, and even though Kosovo, the mentality has changed now, but at the time there were not that many women in journalism. So I remember there was this conference at the I think regarding the custom something, and I was at the office, and there were all men, and I was the only one. So it started like that, and then I start doing some interesting stories, start getting awards, it's like and that environment, working in that environment, you get like a support, and you get more courage to continue and doing other stories. So
sorry, I want to stop there for a second, because in 2015 you received the International Women of Courage Award from the U.S. State Department. Tell us a little bit about that.
So every year, 100 countries across the world, they nominate a woman from the country, but it doesn't matter, different backgrounds, human rights activists, politician, journalists. And then those 100 names come to the State Department, and they select 10. So I received this award for Kosovo and Europe. At the time, so the award I received in 2015, but I've been writing about the increase of extremist religious groups in Kosovo and in the Balkans from 2012. So there was a period of time which I really underestimated what might happen, and this was the switch of my journalism, because in the beginning I was writing more about the economy, corruption, and in 2012 I decided to switch into this, which was a new phenomenon. As we know, for Albanians, the religion was never important. So it's being Albanian. It's not, no one asked, are you Muslim or are you Christian? So during the war in Kosovo, our war was not for religion. So they killed Muslims and they killed Catholics. And after the war in Kosovo, a lot of organization came from Middle East, Saudis, Turks, and they took advantage of the situation. And I just wanted to find out what is happening. I didn't know what I'm getting into, honestly. So then I have realized, and I think that United States and Western countries appreciated what I've been doing, because this was a threat not only to Kosovo, but it was a threat also to the Western countries.
So what triggered you or motivated you to follow the story?
Yeah, so we've started seeing some controversial imams on TV. This new language of this is not the real.
When you say controversial imams, were there Albanian imams or they were foreign imams?
They were Albanian. What happened is that we started seeing that they are becoming more popular and affecting the younger generation. But within the Muslim communities, there were very liberal imams, which actually helped me during all my journey in investigating this. And they've told me, because when you do not practice any religion, it's hard to understand what is happening. And even before ISIS thing, this happened in 2012, the 300 men and women that joined ISIS, it happened in 2013 and 14. So they were a few years later. So I got in touch with a few liberal imams. They told me one of them got beaten up within a mosque because these extremist groups went into his mosque and you are not praying the way you were supposed to pray. This has to be changed. The other imams start having threats. And then there was this small village in Drenica, where majority of men were killed or disappeared during the war. So what happened, a Pakistan organization went there. They brought an imam from Albania. They built an illegal mosque, and they were giving money to orphans. I don't remember exactly the amount of money. And in the mosque, they were gathering boys and girls and staying until 2-3 o'clock in the morning. So there were some NGOs within this the region. They reacted. They asked for the police to. So they start videos coming up, like this imam asking a little girl, 5-6 years old, to put the headscarf, like right in front of camera, and you could say that they are pushing, they are using, and they've been.
And in order for them to receive that extra money or the food or things for them to survive, they had to wear.
So what I did, I won a fellowship to investigate more. This was a Balkan Investigative Network reporting. So I went all the way to London and I find out this Pakistan organization based in London, and they've been sending money in Kosovo. I went to interview the representatives and they was like, nothing is illegal. And I asked them, like, but with your religion, they were not supposed to stay at the same place, men and women, because when you pray separately, right? And why you are keeping young girls in the mosque until 2 o'clock in the morning? Because I had to go and prove this. I talked to the parents. The thing is that after the war, they were poor. Like, who would think about that something like this will happen when we were just escaped the war, survived the genocide? So, and those parents, those women that were without men trying to survive, for them it was like, oh yeah, we have this organization, they are bringing us some meat, some food, at least our kids are safe at the mosque. But no one knew what is happening,
what was actually happening in the mosque, what they were being taught, what they were being.
So what was happening inside the mosque?
So they were, first of all, 22 women from this region they said to Turkey. But no one knows what actually happened because they were not allowed to take photos. From my sources, from in there, 2 of them came back pregnant. So I follow up with this story later on. Some of them got married. They said, if you share this story, we are going to commit suicide. So it was more than just a religion. It was sexual abuse. It was more than that. So even after I received the word, I went back to this village. I wanted to know what happened with this
But
kids.
this isn't Islam, though. Islam is about peace. It's about unity.
So what they've been calling, and it was not only this mosque. There were a lot of mosques that have been built illegally in Kosovo. They came, for example, in Prizren. We all know that in Prizren there is a multicultural,
right.
And there was a mosque that was built during Ottoman Empire. There was an Albanian imam, and what Turks did, they went, they reconstructed, they put some money, and they said to Albanian imam, we are replacing you with a Turkish. They brought, so it's more of the political Islamic agenda. It's not about religion.
It's not about religion
at all. Because, and then I had the parents interviewing, for example, in 2016 that I had the women that joined ISIS. What happened? Who are these girls? How they've been convinced to go and brainwashed. So I interviewed the parents. And I remember this man, I think he didn't have the right hand. And he was telling me, I struggle so much to raise my 6 daughters. And this is not our religion. And she got married with a young boy who was already influenced. Both of them went to Syria with a small baby. And he was sharing the story of his daughter. The other case was the man that came after the war in Kosovo from Germany. He used to live there. He had money. He opened a factory in this region of Kosovo. There was a village, and economically he was okay. I'm making this point because they were saying that because you are poor. Yes, it was an element of being poor, but also it was an element of ideology, because this man, he told me, my kids had money, but they start going to this new mosque in the village, new imam who went to school after the war.
They're being brainwashed.
Exactly. Both of them ended up in ISIS. The man, I remember sharing the story how he said that he went to police and sent to police, stop my kids because they want to escape, because he already had information, but really no one did anything.
I have a question. Have you ever got a chance to interview one of these individuals?
So I got a chance to interview one woman that joined ISIS, not knowing what is happening. So they had like 2 hours a day to be able to talk with Viber with their family. So the family got me in touch with her. So she was telling me what is happening there. So one of the women camps in Syria was led by this woman from Mitrovica. So there were a lot of women from Kosovo, but some of them didn't know what is happening. They went there following their husbands because their husbands went there. They were traveling after. Some of them start fighting, but some other women, they didn't want to fight. They just followed their. So what I'm trying to say, most of them, they were victims, and I blame Albanians. I also blame internationals because they were there. We had KFOR. We have international presence. So as a phenomenon, we have realized there were imams in the mosque calling for young men to go and fight in Syria, saying that you should go there and fight. And then they arrested a few when United States and some other like FBI, and they reacted and they said, this is a huge network that is spreading Kosovo, Macedonia, some part of Serbia, Albania. So it was the whole Balkans. But with the number of the people of Kosovo, like not even 2 million people, there were 300 men and women that joined Islamic State. This is the highest per capita considering the population in the whole Europe. This is a big number. So I just wanted to find out what is happening. And but I really feel bad because there were women, we had babies, and there was all the details where they went to like find money to buy a ticket and go fly through Turkey. So they went to Turkey and they passed the border. So this is what triggered me. But as I said, I started writing about the increase of extremism before we find out about the ISIS.
So I want to take a step back. You said that through your investigation, you said follow the money. Where is the source of money that was funding this type of mosques that you're referring to?
They were coming from different countries. Some of them were coming cash. Like, for example, we have the Muslim community in Kosovo. It's an institution. There is a mufti, like the highest. So I asked for the budget because, people give money, like Donations, and also individuals and families. So, and I received through my sources, because officially they will not give you the budget. I received the budget, and you had like general budget lines saying, for example, I don't know, now I cannot say that this was the exact number, like $100,000. And it's saying coming from abroad, but not showing from where exactly, from who. So you had a lot of budget lines just saying in general. One of my co-workers, my colleague, a good friend of mine, Arbana Xharra, he did a story about how an organization that was financed by Al-Qaeda, it was everything official with documents, brought money into Kosovo through the Islamic community. So he had, I think, 3 days in a row in the front page investigating story, the piece. No one cared. So he proved it also that, see, this is an organization that is linked to Al-Qaeda. What are you doing? You are bringing money from them. So, and then you see imams. Well, officially they have a salary, but they are living a very rich life. So I went to one of them to interview him. And when I asked him a lot about his house and his car, he said, obviously you have no idea about the religion. I said, why? And he said, because you don't know how it works. And I said, but tell me how it works. And he said, for example, if I go to diaspora, to Germany, and this is how he was justifying his luxury life. And he said, there are people there, they just want to give me stuff. So they donate me, like they gave me this car, this Mercedes car. Or he said, if someone gives me money and he says, here it is, this amount of money I'm giving you to help people in Kosovo. He said, I'm not going to ask for paper for that money. And he doesn't ask me for because he trusts me as an imam that I'm going to give that money for good. So you see how they were trying to manipulate with people as well. So then it became like my mission. I've been working, and I'm very, very, to this day, very thankful to the imams that they were going through hell, because being in the community, being a Muslim and raising voice against these groups, it is dangerous. It was for them as well, for me as a woman. And I really underestimated. I'm going to give you an example what I've done. That I was very young also when I had my kids. So my son in 2012 was 6 or 7 years old, and I went in Macedonia to interview one of the imams, which there were papers writing about him, how months ago he was arrested for being a part of Al-Qaeda and then released. So they were suspicious that the man, and I took my son to go and interview him, thinking that when he see me as a mother, because I was very young, I will be able to interview. See, I think that this was not right, but I really didn't know the risk of where I'm putting myself. And later on, things happened to me. So, but as I said, we grew up under the regime, and when you really love your country, and it's very hard to see that they are trying to brainwash, and when they change you culturally. Like, we've been saved from Americans, from Western countries. So Western countries stood in 1999, asked NATO to help us. And then we had this young boys and talking against United States. This man that I've told you that he came from Germany, that he built a factory, the two of his, and he was telling me how his kids start being brainwashed by his mom. And he said, they came home and they saying to me, United States is the worst. And he said, I opened my computer and I put YouTube videos to show them the United States helped us. Because all these kids, most of them, even they were 5 or 6 years old during the war, or they don't remember what happened.
Right.
So the parent was telling me how his own kids were brainwashed. So as I'm saying, this is more than just building a mosque. This is a political Islamic agenda that it started not just in Kosovo, it started also across Europe. So they closed in Austria dozens of mosques in other Western countries. But what happened in Kosovo, they were late, and already they managed to expand.
So how influence. Can someone who is practicing the religion, the true religion of Islam, how can they tell if they are in an illegal mosque that has more of the political extremist agenda versus a true imam that's trying to spread the word of God and teach peace and harmony and love? How can they tell?
The thing is that these controversial imams, because I'm not going to point them saying that they are terrorists, because I don't have, they have pushed these young men to do terrorist attacks. So what they have done, they used in the best way social media. So these more traditional imams, more liberal, they were not that good on social media. So what happened, these imams that they were pushing and brainwashing, they became very popular. So you have an imam, people calling and asking them for personal, like, can I marry this? Can I marry a Catholic? She is singing? Ridiculous. So they became teacher, they became doctors to this young, so they became everything. So, and at the young age, when you start believing that figure, whatever you say about the person, you are already brainwashed. So, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just, you cannot distinguish this between it's on them or it's on their families to just supervise. I have a friend who is an imam, and he told me, you know what, I'm not letting my son to go. I have to know specifically in which mosque he's going to pray, because I don't know, even my son can be influenced, and he's a very, very liberal imam.
So I want to ask you, from your view, again, what is the role of the government, knowing, that this is happening inside the country? Why they're not stepping in to prevent or to close down this mosque?
So what happened? I said this happened immediately after the war, but we were not paying attention. So this organization came immediately after 1999 on charity purposes, based all around the Kosovo. As I said, open organization. Kids will go to computer and English courses, asking in return
food,
because before
clothes,
the war, you would say 96% are Muslim, but people were not practicing.
Yeah.
They were trying to survive.
Exactly. You would have, I remember we had a mosque going to our school, and you had an imam giving us apples or something, but no one really, kids were not going to the mosque. So that not immediately after the war, they came, but a few years later, we could see the increased number of young men and women.
And
so
even changing the way they dress.
Exactly.
So you're saying they used that opportunity that it was chaos.
Exactly. It was poverty.
Under the radar, and trying to build their I guess, camps and foundations.
Yes. And there were a few politicians that raised the voice immediately after the war. But UN didn't react. They said, as you know, everywhere, they say freedom of religion. You cannot prevent them from coming here unless you have information. But they were very smart. They had a long-term agenda. As I said, after how many years we have seen the results when they joined ISIS, over 10 years. So they grew up. These kids, after the war, as I said, they were 6, 7, 8, or 10 years old. And now it's been how many years? In 2014, 14 years after the war, and they grew up and they were ready to join. And they were like an army. If you are calling them to go to Syria, if something else happens somewhere else. So the Mossad achieved to stop the terrorist attack in Shkodra. There was supposed to be a match between Israel and Albania, because the terrorist attack was being planned from a group of Albanians getting orders from Syria. So Mossad prevented this. I was there, we were writing, and one of these kids in Shkodra was 17 years old. Now imagine a 17 years old being. So as I'm saying, nothing happened over the night.
Right.
It started, and that's what I'm saying, is to be blamed both parts.
Is it still happening today?
There are less journalists covering. When I'm in contact, not on a daily basis, but from time to time with my sources there, they are sending me videos. They are saying, yes, take a look of these imams that once they were arrested, released, take a look of their mosque, full of young kids. Now, I am not there, so I am not able to investigate more. But after what happened to me, to a few other my colleagues, and it's just, and I honestly, I understand journalists, because it's not safe in that environment, especially writing about religion.
So this is definitely a hard topic to cover.
It is.
And I'm sure that your life was definitely affected by this. And from my understanding, you have been targeted by these groups to not speak anymore. Can you talk to us about that experience?
So, as I said, I really underestimated what can happen. When I was writing about corruption, I had threats. I've been sent to court. I had a story.
It's like business corruption.
Yeah, but they were also, they were linked to government too. So I had a case in 2012 about this company that won a one-source tender of $60 million. So it was $16 million corruption. They sent me to court. They asked me $700,000 from me. And I had organization based in the United States reacting in my support. I had all the proofs and I won the case. What I'm trying to say, it's not that I was not facing issues as a journalist before I started writing about religion, but I really didn't think that something might happen to the extent it happened to me. In 2012, when my first investigative piece was published, then the reaction started, mostly on social media. There were maybe sometimes more, sometimes, but they were a weekend, for example. I remember there was Friday, I had a post on Facebook. By Monday, when I went to police, I can even not count how many threats. They start targeting then my kids. So they send me a photo of the killed person, his head cut off with all the blood, and said to me, we know how much you love your own children, we're going to find you. So they knew that they cannot silence me. They were trying to
intimidate you.
They find out where I live. Right next to the door, the apartment, they draw the red cross, which looks like blood. And my son, who was 7 at that time, he was the first to see it. So it was not easy for my family as well and for my kids. And 2 or 3 weeks later, I was on TV in Albania talking about the illegal mosque, Turkish influence, what they are doing, bringing cash money, because they are not using banks. Because when they use bank system, it's easier to track where's money coming from, and the attack happened. So it is really not easy. And then hoping that they will find out, and then the fear of what if, because of my work, what if something happens to my own kids, and I really couldn't risk their life anymore. And they continue as well. Even when I was not there, I just won a case this year against one of these imams, which I had proofs that he was a part of this organization, Wahhabi organization. There was a State Department report. I have documents, and he sued me in 2016. And as you know, there are years it take to. Yeah. And I won the case, and I've heard that he complained into the appeal court. So imagine being there. Imagine being there and knowing that you do not have safety. And I don't care about myself. As when I started doing journalism, I went through hell and I was strong enough. But then when your kids start growing up and they go out alone, it's just, and you can just not risk their life. And I think I have risked their life a lot for a long time.
Do you regret going into investigative journalism now that you see the effect of your children?
I know, but I don't. I'm glad they are safe and nothing happened to them. I don't regret because I know that I have raised awareness of a lot of people, and I was the voice of what is happening, and I don't regret. That's why even though since I got here 6 years ago, I continue writing, speaking, and I didn't switch my career. So I grew up being a journalist, so it's more than just a job.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about your current state, right? You're still active in the human rights space.
Yes.
Tell us what you're doing now.
I work for Alon Ben-Meir Institute. So since they were not much focused on the Balkans, since I started working for them, they are very, very much focused on the Balkans. So we do have at least 2 or 3 interviews on the media there weekly. We do writings, we do research on what is happening. So as soon as I got here, I had co-authored articles with the head of organization on what is happening with Turkey, what is happening with this mosque, and our articles were translated to many languages and were covered to a lot of media, like globally. And then they found it very interesting as a part of Europe what is happening, because Balkan is like a bridge between East and West. Yeah. They usually and used it too. So yeah, this is what I'm focus mostly, because I'm the only person in the organization that when we run research or when we have to respond to, because that's why I have to be updated on what is happening there. I also attend conferences, panels. I'm a part of other organizations. So since I won the award of courage, so as I said, every year 10 women, and they come from different places of the world, and they struggle, and we all share same problem. So I expanded my network. So I am in contact with many of them. We do podcasts with them. We share their stories. So we try to raise awareness, especially on Western countries, of what is happening with women, because women are those who are being mostly attacked, suffering from war, conflict zones, and everywhere.
So is the focus still religion, or is it more
No.
of a human rights?
More of the human right, but involve, for example, what is happening in Afghanistan after Taliban took over. Women are those being attacked mostly. We've seen what happened in Iran and still what is happening. So, and now there are a lot of asylum seekers and human rights activists in the United States. And it's different when you read the story, but it's different when you meet in person those people who suffered under their regime. So, so it's expanded, not just strictly religion, but there are.
So how do you guys specifically try to get them out of that environment? How do they find you, or how do they seek help if they're, they're stuck in that world?
So our organization really doesn't deal with then bringing them here, because there are some, for example, Human Rights First organization here that they deal with immigrants. Our organization only deals with human rights. Like right now we have a lot of writings on what is happening in Gaza and in Israel. But there are also other organizations that they help. So I've met them after they came here.
Okay.
So basically your organization is bringing awareness of situation
Yes.
that's happening, and then other organizations then will
we
take
do
next steps.
We also publish, for example, conflict resolution, how we can solve the problem in Gaza, what is happening. So the head of the organization had over 45 years of experience in Middle East, Turkey, and that's why when he writes and when we do publish reports, we also bring solution and how this solution.
So tell us some of those solutions. What do you think?
Specifically for Gaza.
So I would not go into that because I am not very much. I do research, but I don't do focus writing. So
in your opinion, it doesn't.
So it's more complicated than what is happening there. So I try to bring my perspective. For example, in Kosovo, we were planning to have some writings and publishing next year. So the head of organization, Alon Ben-Meir, was supposed to go now in Kosovo, but the election here and election in February in Kosovo, we considered it was not the best moment. So about the Kosovo-Serbia, which is very important, what is happening, for how many years we had negotiation with Serbia, and still we have problems with that. Still Serbia is trying to prevent us from becoming a member of international organization. What is happening? So we have monthly articles, but we also we're working on the strategy, what we should do. So for example, there are 5 EU countries that don't recognize Kosovo. Should we start as a state work with those countries? What we should do? Serbia, on the other hand, they are building their network, their lobby in the United States. They call for countries to de-recognize Kosovo, even though they recognized us before. But we are lucky that we have the support of United States and the main EU countries, but we should do more. Now we have the new administration in the United States. We should immediately start building network, because we are a small country and we need support. So we are independent, but we need them. So no matter who is here in the White House, we always had their support. And I just want to mention, during the war, we had Democrats. In 2008, when we declared independence, there were Republicans. So when NATO said, no, Kosovo is still not ready to have the army, was Trump at the time, and he said to Kosovo parliament, vote, pass, and you are going to have the army. So what I'm trying to say is that we Albanians in Kosovo, because as a voter in America, you vote for differing reasons, but as Albanians, we should look for our interest for our future. We are American allies. We have to build stronger bridges. We had people who helped us, but they are retired now. So those who lobbied for Albanians, we need to find new names. We need to find...
Think Trump's administration is going to be favorable towards our Albanian Kosovo politics?
I think it depends from us. It depends from how we are going to continue the negotiations, because there always have requests from the United States. This government that we have in Kosovo, they were opposing a lot of requests coming from United States and EU. It's because the nature of Trump is that he's going to come up with a probably harsh decision or a little bit unpredictable. So it depends from us. It depends from our network here that we have connection on. His administration, I know that there are a lot of Albanians who have influence. They are close to this administration. So we have to find the best way and the best people to be a part of continuous negotiation also, because the whole problem is how they are going to solve the problem with Serbia.
I agree with you. He's unpredictable. To me, I feel like he's going to sell to the highest bidder.
So that's why I'm saying we had the meeting.
So we have to generate a lot of money, I feel like, to put on the table for Trump and his administration to say, you need to, take care of that region. Otherwise, he's going to...
I don't think that we are that...
I
will not, maybe, but when it comes to the Balkans, you know what's the problem? Because you have the Serbia, who is the biggest ally of Russia.
Right.
So what they are trying to do is to have Serbia cut ties with Russia. And that's why United States is giving munition to Kosovo, Albania, Montenegro, because they are sending a signal to Russia saying that it's not only Serbia getting munition and army from Russia. So we are also other countries who are strong. This is more of a geopolitical problem.
Right. No, I get it.
I know, but it's
again, we don't know where he's going to stand, right, when it comes to that region of the world. I do believe that Serbia and Russia are very closely tied, and I don't think they're going to break apart anytime soon. So then that leaves room for this administration to choose who they're going to support. Whether they're going to support Serbia, they're going to support Kosovo.
If they support Serbia, which means they support Russia. So I hope not.
Trump and Russia, they've been flirting a lot. So it could be, to him, it's not about geopolitical, it's about business.
I also hope on the other people, because it's not just Trump, there are also other people working for this administration will bring on table things. And even if he doesn't know, hopefully we'll have people will tell him the risk of having support Serbia, because it's the country that caused genocide, and you're still having Vučić there. He follows the same policy. So when the war in Ukraine started, the Belgrade was the only place on the capital city they had a protest in support of Russia. So while everyone else was but we also have to know how to continue our negotiation and diplomacy.
So I agree with you. There's a lack here from an Albanian lobby. We don't have a strong lobby. If actually it's non-existent at this point. How do we then, as individuals or as a community, do some lobbying on their behalf?
I really have hope on the younger generation educated, because even though they are not much on media, but there are so many names, they are going to very, very good schools if they engage to politics, because we cannot think only on the 4-year term of Trump. We need, as Albanians, to think on the longer term. If we want to have influence or have benefit from our biggest ally, we need to have Albanians in the administration, in the Senate, in the Congress. We have to support smart people. We have to support them financially, because if you run for Congress and Senate, you know that you need money, right? So we need to identify young names, smart, to push them, and when they are there, then we can see the change. Otherwise, you organize conferences, you have diplomatic visits here. What they do, they have some dinners and lunch, they meet, and then they go back. So, and then you have our foreign ministers who are not doing that good job when it comes to foreign policy. So for us here in the United States, it's very important to have people here and not wait from them, from Kosovo and Albania, coming twice a year and build policies in the United States. So that's what because we have a lot of rich community Albanians, so we have to think in longer term for Albanians globally. So,
tell us a little bit about the journalism space in Kosovo right now. Are the new reporters, the new journalists, in your view, are they doing a good job on the ground?
So I've been asked several times to be on the jury and to go over the investigative pieces. I was really surprised positively, especially for the number of women that are working. It's much higher number than it used to be before. And considering the environment there, they are doing a good job. But you have everything. So you have a lot of TVs and online medias who are not, so they can report everything they want. So you have a few credible voices, but not everyone. And yeah, they can do better, but considering that, you know what, the media there are dependent from businesses, because that's why you don't have printed newspaper anymore, because you cannot survive by the copy of newspaper, or you survive by the money of advertisement that businesses are bringing into you. Businesses are linked to the political parties. And then that's why they cannot be that independent, because they depend on the money that is supporting. And then, yes, there have been a lot of attacks on journalists, beaten. The number has increased.
Within the country?
Yes, within the country. So I had my colleagues who've been beaten up. And yeah, I hear stories every day that not only from outside, but also within their media, they have censorship. Like, you cannot publish this, you cannot, because we're going to lose money, we're going to lose this and that. So it's not easy to work in that environment as a journalist, and to survive as, who can survive? Only those organizations, media, who are funded international. So if U.S. Embassy gives you a fund to do investigative piece, then you really don't care, because financially you are to pay journalists to do their work, and it's easier. There are few of them that have international, the EU gives them money, United States, UNDP, so some organization. So yeah, you asked me maybe, but I don't want to go back. One question which I didn't respond earlier, when you said about politicians, what they are doing anything in this regard, even when it comes to religion, they look after if you have influence. So they saw that these imams have influence, which means they can bring votes. So if you attack a popular person, you're going to lose vote. You see, everything is linked.
Everything's connected,
Everything is linked.
It's all about money, it's all about fame.
It is sad because we had really momentums to become a great country. Younger generation, they are so smart. So you see everyone, you have these young kids coming in the United States, they are the best in the universities and all that. So what is happening? Why we failed for 24 years to build a strong, everyone is seeking to escape, not only from Kosovo, from Albania as well. And the brain drain, the numbers are really, really scary, and that's because they don't see perspective.
Arbana, so tell us a little bit for the young people that want to get involved in journalism and reporting. What type of advice do you have for them?
So they need to have, it's not going to be easy. You need to have support starting from their family. They're not going to make money, because if you go back all these countries, if you are a journalist, you're not a good journalist. So even here, if you are a celebrity, if you run a big show, of course, but journalists, even in New York Times, they make 30,000, 40,000 a year when they start. So you cannot survive here with that. You need to have support, you need to have courage, and you need to have passion, because you're going to have struggle. You're going to have, it's a long journey, but as I said, I've loved what I've been doing, and I did this in very, very difficult circumstances. Writing as a journalist from the United States and back there, it's a huge difference, but it depends. You can be a journalist, cover economy, as a profession, it really keeps you alive. So you have everyday new stories, everyday new things. And when you see the result, and you see the effect that you have as a journalist. So as soon as you start and you feel loving it, you're going to have, like, you're going to do it your entire life.
I would also add to that, as if they're starting out in journalism, they should build their own brand and using social media to have more their own independent voice as well.
Yes.
I think that helps. The more, let's just say, followers you have on your platform, the more credible you become, either for a newspaper or for a magazine or for
I know,
TV.
but I think that when you start in the beginning, you first of all, they don't have to think about being popular immediately. They have to learn some rules, because this day everyone is trying to become a journalist. But to be an independent, to be credible voice that people will trust when you read your name, you need to go through education. You need to know some rules. Like, for example, when you get information, you cannot use everything. In my first investigative report on religion, I had information from Secret Service. And my editor in London, he said to me, we cannot use this. And I said, why? He said, because Secret Service collects all kind of information, and we don't know if everything
It's credible.
is credible.
Yeah.
That's why you go through all these steps and you learn. Then if you manage to write for credible media, like, you can read stories everywhere, but you don't trust. You trust if you read the New York Times, right? So if you manage, and it took me 12 years to become editor. So I was pregnant, I was running, I was working 12 hours. So it's something that you don't have time. There is not 9 to 5. So I had times when I was working for 12 hours. So what I'm trying to say, you need to have passion, like as in profession, and wait. Don't, because we can all open in TikTok and talk about that. But it's a little bit longer journey. But if you are consistent, then you're going to achieve.
And if they want to find you personally, they want to share a story with you, where can they find you?
Yes, on social media.
Okay.
Whoever reaches out on DM me, I'll respond to them.
Which is Arbana Xharra.
Arbana Xharra. It's only me on Facebook and Instagram, so
Perfect.
they can reach out.
Arbana, thank you. It was a
It was
pleasure.
my pleasure.
Pleasure speaking to you and learning more about your background and what you were doing. If you want to come back to the show again, if you have a story that you want to break, please let us know.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.